Okay, so this trial is just zooming by because it's already in the hands of the jury. So let's just get right to the article. Jurors in Hunter Biden's gun trial began deliberating Monday to decide whether the president's son is guilty of federal firearms charges over a revolver he bought when prosecutors say he was addicted to crack cocaine. Hunter Biden is charged with 3 felonies stemming from the purchase of the gun in 2018. Prosecutors say he lied on a federal form by saying he was not illegally using or addicted to drugs. Since the trial began last week in Delaware's federal court, jurors have heard emotional testimony from Hunter Biden's former romantic partners, read personal text messages, and seen photos of him with drug paraphernalia or partially clothed. Now, unless he had drug paraphernalia while partially clothed, I do not understand what the point of that was. I mean, at least they didn't pull a Marjorie Taylor Greene and show a dick pic, but still. He has publicly detailed his struggles with a crack cocaine addiction before getting sober more than 5 years ago, but the defense sought to show that he did not consider himself an addict when he filled out the form, which, again, as I've mentioned in pretty much every one of these videos, the form does not ask if you're addicted to drugs. It asks if you're using drugs. Those are 2 different things. Because I guess if you're a legal marijuana user, I don't know. Because alcohol is legal and that's not considered a controlled substance. Maybe if where you are marijuana is legal, you wouldn't need to put that on the form either. I don't know. It's the first of 2 trials Hunter Biden faces in the midst of his Democratic father's re-election campaign. The younger Biden is also charged with failing to pay at least $1.4 million in taxes in a case scheduled to go to trial in September. In closing arguments on Monday, the prosecutor told jurors to focus on the overwhelming evidence against Hunter Biden and pay no mind to members of the president's family sitting in the courtroom, including First Lady Jill Biden. Now, that is true. They shouldn't base their judgment on whether he has a loving family and a politically powerful one at the moment. That just because they happen to be there shouldn't make you decide one way or the other whether he's guilty or not. Because unless you believe what Trump is saying, they aren't going to go after you. I mean, Joe Biden has already said he's not going to pardon Hunter if he's convicted. He's just going to let the process play out. So that doesn't sound like someone who's going to retaliate if the jury finds him guilty. So, yeah, definitely should not influence them. Let's see, where am I? All of this is not evidence, Wise said, extending his hand and directing the jury to look at the gallery. People sitting in the gallery are not evidence. And that's true. They aren't. They're just a family that loves Hunter. Defense attorney Abbe Lowe countered that prosecutors have failed to prove their case. He told jurors the fact that his client has a famous last name does not change the fact that he is presumed innocent, like any other defendant, until proven guilty. Again, also true. All right. With his last breath in this case, I ask for the only verdict that will hold the prosecutors to what the law requires of them. A verdict of not guilty, Lowell said. The defense has sought to show that Hunter Biden did not consider himself an addict when he filled out the form. His lawyers have suggested he was trying to turn his life around at the time of the gun purchase, having completed a detoxification and rehabilitation program at the end of August 2018. Okay, so plenty of time for him to relapse. Number one. Number two, who the hell turns their life around by buying a gun? Seriously, how is that turning your life around? It's not. So yeah, and of course, like I already mentioned once in this video, the question is not, are you addicted to drugs? I mean, that's part of it. But the question asks if you're using or addicted. So, not the same thing. So, even if they're right that he didn't consider himself an addict, if he's still using, he's still using. So the fact that they keep harping on he's not an addict leads me to believe that he had already relapsed and the defense is just copping to the fact that he relapsed at this point. And yes, once an addict falls off the wagon, they're probably addicted again. I mean, it's not like they can go to rehab, come out, and then go right back to using whatever drug it was that got you addicted in the first place. Not how this works. Lowell said there's no witness to Hunter Biden's drug use in the 11 days he had the gun. Okay. And he suggested his client was lying about where he was in text messages to his brother Beau's widow. Okay. The prosecution suggests those texts show drug use and drug deals in the days following the gun purchase. Okay, yeah, that whole paragraph was weird. Now, again, I pointed out a famous country singer, Keith Whitley, who his wife, Lori Morgan, also a country singer, she never saw him take a drink, and yet he died of alcohol poisoning. So the fact that nobody witnessed it, not exactly proof of anything. And yeah, that if we took that as the gold standard, obviously it would be nice if a witness had seen it. But the law doesn't only rely on witnesses. If they did, there would be a lot of cases where people would literally get away with murder because there were no witnesses. So, yeah, there's a problem with that line of reasoning. So, yes. All right. And as you can tell, Hunter Biden did not testify, which, the man's a lawyer. He probably knows damn well that this would end badly for him. So no matter how well he thought he could handle himself on the stand, this would not go well. So, yeah. At any given time, he would lie to her about where he was, Lowell said. Really? That's your defense? My client wasn't an addict. He's just a pathological liar. I'm sorry. Hunter must be dying right now. It's like, oh God. Yeah, I'm not a crackhead. I'm just a pathological liar. How is that? I mean, obviously, for this case, that's better, but is it? Closing arguments came shortly after the defense rested its case without calling Hunter Biden to the witness stand. He smiled as he chatted with members of his defense team and flashed a thumbs up to one of his supporters in the gallery after the final witness, an FBI agent called by prosecutors in their rebuttal case. And yes, for those who aren't aware of the way legal proceedings go, the prosecution calls their witnesses and then the defense cross-examines them. And then the defense calls witnesses and the prosecution cross-examines. And because the prosecutors have the burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, they get a rebuttal time so they can call back whatever witnesses they want and question them again. So, the First Lady, the President's brother James, and other family members sat in the first row of the Wilmington, Delaware courtroom. At one point, Hunter Biden leaned over a railing to whisper in his mother's ear. She has sat through most of the trial, missing only one day last week to attend D-Day anniversary events with the President in France. Hunter Biden has pleaded not guilty to 3 felony charges stemming from the October 2018 purchase of a gun he had for about 11 days. He has accused the Justice Department of bending to political pressure from former President Donald Trump and other Republicans to bring the gun case and separate tax charges after a deal with prosecutors fell apart last year. And he's right. From what I've heard, this is not the kind of thing that people go to trial for. So, yeah, it's totally all about the Republicans wanting to go after his father through Hunter. The case has put a spotlight on turbulent time in Hunter Biden's life after the death of his brother in 2015. I still can't believe it's been that long. Jurors have heard emotional testimony from Hunter Biden's former romantic partners and read personal text messages. They've seen photos of him holding a crack pipe and partially clothed, and video from his phone of a crack cocaine weighed on a scale. Question is, now a lot of these photos can be dated. So, question is, when are any of these things dated? His ex-wife and 2 former girlfriends testified for prosecutors about his habitual crack use and their failed efforts to help him get clean. One woman who met Hunter Biden in 2017 at a strip club where she worked described him smoking crack every 20 minutes or so while she stayed with him at a hotel. Okay, again, long before he even entered rehab. So, I don't see how that's relevant, because can relapse happen? Absolutely. Nobody is denying that he was a crackhead at one point. What people are trying to figure out was he one when he purchased the gun? I don't see why you're establishing this. Hunter himself admitted this. Jurors have heard him describe at length his descent into addiction through audio excerpts played in court from his 2021 memoir, Beautiful Things. Exactly. Why are you going through all this trouble to prove that he did crack when he's telling you himself he did crack? The book, written after he got sober, covers the period he had the gun, but doesn't mention it specifically. Okay. So he doesn't mention the gun. But still, how is establishing that he was a crackhead in 2017 helping your case? Okay, yeah. He was in rehab until August of 2018. So you should be figuring out when he relapsed, not that he did crack, because we already know he did. A key witness for prosecutors was Bo's widow, Hallie, who had a brief troubled relationship with Hunter after his brother died of brain cancer. I'm sorry, every time I read that, it's just, ugh. Not because Hallie got together with Beau's younger brother. But the way it's phrased, it's like, he died and then the next day she hooked up with Hunter. But also the fact that she moved on from Beau with Hunter. That's kind of icky, but like I said, the timing, the way they're making it sound, it's just, yeah. She found the unloaded gun in Hunter's truck on October 23rd, 2018, panicked and tossed it into a garbage can at a grocery store in Wilmington, where a man inadvertently fished it out of the trash. At least the gun was unloaded. That's more that's more than I could say from a lot of gun owners. So, yeah. From the time Hunter returned to Delaware from a 2018 trip to California until she threw his gun away, she did not see him using drugs, Hallie told jurors. That time period included the day he bought the weapon. But jurors also saw text messages Hunter sent to Hallie in October 2018 saying he was waiting for a dealer and smoking crack. Well, alrighty. The first message was sent the day after he bought the gun. The second was sent the following day. Now that just proves that, he lied on the form. That's literally all they needed to show. Because why would he send those texts when he's not using anymore if he didn't relapse? So, that's proof right there. Unless, I guess it's entirely possible that, I guess it's entirely possible that, he bought the gun and then relapsed. But, that's not, that right there is guilt right there. Joe Biden said last week that he would accept the jury's verdict and has ruled out a presidential pardon for his son. Because unlike some people who claim to be for law and order, Joe Biden actually is. After flying back from France, the president was at his home in Wilmington for the day and was expected in Washington in the evening for a Juneteenth concert. He was scheduled to travel to Italy later this week for the Group of Seven Leaders Conference. Last summer, it looked as if Hunter Biden would avoid prosecution in the gun case altogether, but a deal with prosecutors imploded after the judge, who was nominated to the bench by Trump, raised concerns about it. Hunter Biden was subsequently indicted on 3 felony gun charges. He also faces a trial scheduled for September on felony charges alleging he failed to pay at least $1.4 million in taxes over 4 years. Now, normally, who put a judge on the bench shouldn't matter. But in the era of Trump, unfortunately, it does. Because we have seen how much these judges will bend over backwards for Trump. Not all of them. There have been Trump-appointed judges who actually still give a crap about the law. But unfortunately, a lot of them are more political. If convicted in the gun case, he faces up to 25 years in prison, though first-time offenders do not get anywhere near the maximum, and it's unclear whether the judge would give him time behind bars. Like I keep saying, I'm sure that the same Republicans who yowled about this plea deal are going to yowl if he doesn't get 25 years. Not just jail time. They will want the maximum. So, yeah. That is all I have for this article. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.